So going back into, evolutionary history, into geological time, once, and Sophie's talked about this a bunch, once seaweeds became plants and made their way onto land, back in the day, in the day of the lycopedrons, and the day of like the scale trees, all of the trees that made all of the coal on Earth, that towered in barren forests for hundreds of millions of years, when they started to diversify and the angiosperms, the flowering plants, came onto the scene late in the age of the dinosaurs, fruit exploded. The angiosperms, the flowering plants, are the most successful plant species on Earth. Or sorry, not species, like family, if you will. The vast majority of the genetic diversity of all plants is contained within the flowering plants. And again, they only came about, in the past, let's say 100 million years. And their fruit, and their flowers and their nectar and their ability to attract species across domains of life, and not just from not just from the plant kingdom into the animal kingdom, also into the microbial kingdom, is key to their success. The smell of spontaneously fermented ethanol has guided primate ancestors to the ripest, most sugar-laden fruit and trees for millions of years. Many primates are trichromats. We have the ability to see red, green, and blue, and lots of other mammals are only dichromatic, like dogs, for example. They say dogs only see in black and white. That's not true. They just lack the ability to see, they just lack the retinal cones to be able to differentiate green light with, as good precision as we can. Now, the reason for that evolution, or that evolutionary advantage that primates hold, that lots of arboreal species hold, is the differentiation between unripe and ripe fruit. That's an amazing signal that has co-evolved between, flowering plant species and the animals that consumed and distributed those fruits. It's almost like we tapped into this other layer of reality to be able to say, oh, we can access another, kind of like hidden secret code within, the electromagnetic spectrum, to have this conversation between just the two of us. And I'll let you know through my enzymes, through all of my evolved trickery, when my baby is perfectly ripe for you. I will release, maturation enzymes that will degrade starches into sugars and allow you, dear primate, to run off with my child. I will pay you for its consumption. Just you make sure to take it far away from me so you can spread my seeds into the wilderness and spread me around the world. This has worked time and time again. Robert Dudley has famously developed the Drunken Monkey hypothesis that gives an evolutionary explanation for the human predilection for alcohol. And he points out that our heritage is, of course, a fruit-eating one. And almost certainly the very first primates were frugivores. Our early relatives moved from the leaves onto non-fruit plants, but we retained that love for alcohol and sweetness. Now, this divergence from the trees down onto, the plains of Africa happened some maybe 7 million years ago. And along with that came a tiny change in our DNA sequence that allows us to produce an enzyme that's super efficient at breaking down alcohol. This is called alcohol dehydrogenase. Homo sapiens, with our creative evolved brains, took this ability to amp up alcohol breakdown, and it allowed us to propel our pursuit of alcohol into completely new cultural domains. Just to let you understand this, alcohol is a poison. Lots of the products of fermentation are exclusionary chemicals. They are kind of little side streams in either the Krebs cycle or other metabolic pathways, where one molecule in what's normally like a daisy chain of metabolic flux can be produced en masse if it confers an advantage onto the organism that's producing it. So things like citric acid, lactic acid, and ethanol are all great when produced in sufficient enough quantities to be able to kind of fence off a single grape, if you will. If it gets alcoholic enough, stray bacteria, stray amoebas won't be able to survive in those environments. And the yeast or the bacteria that are producing these acids or these poisons will be able to completely consume it for their own good, hang out there until they find another sugar source, and then go on to colonize whole swaths of land. So the switch from poison to food source was an important one. About 1/10 of the human liver's processing capacity is devoted to breaking down alcohol via the production of enzymes like alcohol dehydrogenase, which is kind of fascinating. Now, because alcohol is so addictive and this like very carefully mediated, basically inhibitor to normal functioning, it was inevitable that lots of individuals would overconsume. And that somehow these behaviors would be tied or recognized as social evils. In Africa, for example, I have this great video from this 1970s documentary called Animals Are People Too, that I used to show on the book tour for the Nomad Fermentation, where you see elephants, capuchin monkeys, I think there were warthogs and what's Timon? Meerkats feasting off of the rotting fruit of the marula fruit tree. And if you've ever tasted marula fruit in Africa, I had it for the first time in Zimbabwe. It is like eating into a sugar tart. It is so incredibly sweet. And elephants actually migrate, across hundreds of kilometers at these seasonally timed intervals to feast off of not the fresh fruit, but the rotting fruit. And in this video, it's hilarious because the animals are visibly drunk, which goes to show you that not only is fermentation as a pathway, not only does it stretch back like to time immemorial, to the dawn of life on Earth, but the decided consumption of fermented foods does not solely belong to human intent or human consciousness. There are lots of animals that will deliberately seek it out. And this isn't even, I don't even have time to talk about like ants and leaf cutters and basically the domestication of fungi that built whole. We don't even have time to get into that. But just know that fermentation and basically all life is this kind of central node, if you will, this kind of keystone in between lots of species interactions that become ritualized and become mythologies in their own right. To speak to that, there are plenty of ancient gods dedicated to fermentation. In the Baltics, there's Ragutin and Ragupatis, who are the gods of fermentation and of beer, respectively. They're partners. In Mexico, you have Mahahuel, who is the goddess of pulque, Bacchus and Dionysus, Roman and Greek, respectively, gods of wine. Silenus was a companion and tutor to the wine god, Dionysus. Varuni, the Hindu god of wine. Bamweje was the West African Hausa spirit of drunkenness. And the list goes on and on and on. There's actually a Wikipedia article dedicated to this, and it's like 50 lines long. And those are just known examples. But the point is that alcohol, out of any form of fermentation, is usually the easiest one to kind of self-start and the easiest one to isolate.